Hi, I'm Bethany Warren, and you are joining me to listen to the podcast of our Millwall fan show with the No One Likes Us Talking team, which is available every Friday at 8 p.m.
It's Friday. I'm your host, Miles Blumsom, and I have the No One Likes Us Talking team of Patricia Maslin, Gorgeous George Lampy, and Ted Robinson.
Not everybody likes them, but they don't care.
All right, guys, how are we? I'm surprised I've been asked back, to be honest. I mispronounced half the names in London last time. But we're here. We're back for another week. Another No One Likes Us Talking. Pat, Johnny and Eamon have told me that you've been campaigning, challenging the norms and criticising others. Not much has changed since last week, then?
Absolutely not. That's what we're here for.
And George, you've stopped traipsing around the cabbage patches and are back on the smooth greens for golf and bowling. What's your handicap now, then?
My handicap's turning up, I think, actually.
You've been enjoying the new freedom as well?
Oh, yeah, it's great to be out there. Yeah, I've enjoyed it. And, you know, being out in the open, the weather's been nice, so it's lovely.
Yeah. Oh, it has been good, hasn't it? And Ted, bringing you in. Johnny said I should ask, have you visited the Millwall visualisations within the railway arch in Zampa Road like Pat and George have yet?
I haven't, actually. Well, no, I'll tell you, I did. I drove past them and didn't realise they were there. Sorry, my mind was somewhere else when I went there. But no, I've seen enough of them. I've got nothing but admiration for people that do that sort of thing. I mean, I can't draw to save my life, but to do something like that on a railway arch is absolutely fantastic. And it brightens it up, doesn't it? Without a doubt. Shows you where you are as well.
Not like you to be confused, is it, Ted?
Well, sometimes I am and sometimes
not.
Yeah. Yeah. I was wondering why I keep getting asked back, Miles, let alone you. But there you go.
Well, let's crack into it. Saturday saw the Lions undone at Loftus Road, a ground that they haven't won at since February 1989. Goals from Jimmy Carter and Tony Casarino brought the points back to the Den when both sides were in the top flight. Last Saturday, on the basis of form, a ground where that win should have been an easier target than it has been in the past. As BBC and Millwall iFollow's Carl Bates, regular on the show, said, this Rangers team have been cheating their fans for far too long this season as they only turn up when they want to. Ended up 4-3 to QPR. Masterson, Manning, Eze and Kane for QPR. Smith, Hutchinson and Malumbi for Millwall. Ted, you had some strong views about how the Lions lined up. What didn't you like?
Well, no, I mean, listen, I understand, you know, there was a sort of thing that when you manage a side and they're winning, you don't change a winning team. So I sort of understood why he kept the same side, but it was quite obvious in the first half. I mean, QPR have got some decent players, you know, and they're the sort of players up front as well that our boys are a little bit iffy with, should we say, because they're small, they're technically gifted, they do a lot of movement. And I could just see halfway through the first half it wasn't working. And I'd said that Smith had to come on. We had to go more direct because they was outplaying us. And in the second half, Gary Rowett did change it to that sort of way. And we, you know, we made a game of it in the second half. And, you know, we give some stupid goals away, poor goals from Millwall's point of view for the way that we've been defending all year. You know, they was pretty soft goals, you know, that's not like us. But at least at the other end, we was causing them all sorts of trouble every time the ball went into the box. None of them could handle Matt Smith, and we all know that's a tricky thing in its own right anyway. But I just think maybe it's a bit of hindsight, but I thought we would have been better off setting out with Matt Smith and getting a grip on the game if we could have done, rather than the way it panned out.
Pat, do you agree with that?
I thought it was a poor game all round. I was really disappointed in it. They marked Woods out the game. We didn't even see him. They'd obviously done their own work on us. I mean, we've had so many opportunities to make the playoffs. We just didn't seem to want it. The players looked lethargic. No one seemed to want to play. I was really disappointed. And as Ted said, them changes ought to have been made during the first half. I mean, after 20 minutes, you could see it wasn't working out. And it was unusual of Rowett not to, like, jump in there and make them sooner.
Do you not think it's hard to make a
game.
change in the first half, though, because the players will... I know that you don't want to protect them too much. Yeah, I know, but to do it too often and do you not think that maybe he did want the confidence for the last game of the season?
I mean, we so needed to win that. No, Rowett's not frightened of subbing in the first half. He's done it before and it's worked lovely. But he was sitting down, wasn't he? He wasn't up encouraging. Every time the cameras went on him, he was sitting down. I don't know. There just didn't seem any will with the team.
The thing is, Miles, you got 5 subs now.
Yeah.
I mean, when you got 3 subs, maybe you don't make any unless you have to. But when you can see that tactically it's just not working, which is what was pretty clear in the first half, I think I would have changed it after half an hour. Because it just wasn't getting any better. We just wasn't getting into the game. And for want of a better way, like Pat was saying there, they done a job on us because they got to Woods very quickly and stopped him from sort of playing. And we couldn't seem to help Woods out with our movement and whatever. So it became quite clear to me in a big game like that something had to change, otherwise we was going to lose it. So I think with 5 subs, you're more than entitled to, if you feel, change your system or bring one guy on that alters it in that first half.
Real opportunity missed for the playoffs then?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we don't not play very well very often. All this season, our guys are trying. Rowett gets it right most of the time. I think on that particular day, he made a mistake and he didn't correct it quick enough. And losing Bennett, of course, was difficult and it made life harder for us.
And what is it?
What bring on for Benny? Brought John Daddy on. Why would you do that?
Yeah,
it just didn't make sense to me at all.
But as you guys were saying, they invited. It was like we were inviting them on, and they're always a good football inside. Passing wise, QPR, and it was just we were making life so difficult for ourselves. It really was a day when we weren't at the races, I think.
What is it about Loftus Road then? just can't go and get a win.
Well, we can't talk. We can't talk about Cheltenham when we haven't won at QPR for about 39 years, can we? So,
well, hopefully next season will be the year, and there'll be the away fans in there, so you can properly dig it in. Right, let's get rid of the negative. Wednesday night, the crowd is roaring in the Dockers lower. Connor Mahoney scoring an early goal to give the Lions the lead. Before the half was over, the Terriers, Huddersfield had equalised. Mahoney continued just as he had at Loftus Road and was a threat for the Lions in the second half too, which earned the commentators' man of the match accolade. Astonishingly, Jiri Skalak put a great subs performance with a goal, as did Budvarsson, but there was no prize for Sean Hutchinson, and equaling Cooper's tally from last season. But for Cooper himself, he got us back on the march early in the second half from a pinpoint Mahoney corner. Even the Millwall youngsters gave an assertive performance as well. It would appear to bode well for next season, for 2020-21. 4-1 against Huddersfield, a team that last season were in the Premier League. Mahoney, Cooper, Skalak and Bodvarsson with the goal. Pat, starting with you, what was different? It's just 4 days later.
Well, at that point, we're not under any pressure, are we? And it just goes to show the difference. There was no Bennett, there was no Wallace, there was no Romeo. Yeah, we were passing the ball lovely. The best I've seen since we've come back, since the layoff. We was using the full width of the pitch. And as you say, Mahoney, man of the match, commanding, a bit more confidence in the guy. And that is a real good prospect we got there. Really, we haven't seen that before this season. He's shown touches, but on Wednesday, he was absolutely brilliant, and I look forward to seeing him next season. It wasn't a classic game, but it was enjoyable. Huddersfield made it enjoyable as well. It didn't sort of blur into nothing. I enjoyed it Wednesday, but just a shame it didn't lead to anything.
How important was the third goal? Was the goal for 3-1? Because it was a bit of a mistake at the back for Huddersfield, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it felt to Jiri Skalak.
But he took it so well, didn't he? All right, it was a mistake by the centre half or whoever he was, but Skellick was on it, took it, and he had a lot to do. He had to beat the oncoming keeper, and I thought he did it very well indeed, actually. And I'm not his biggest fan, so. But I would like to we had these youngsters playing, and I think Henry mentioned him before, Billy Mitchell. Well, I was at Wigan a season ago when he had his first game, and the boy is, he looked like a boy that day, and he's beginning to look like a man now. And the way he plays like a man. I think Billy Mitchell is going to be a real asset to Millwall Football Club.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Well, I think Billy Mitchell's more than capable of performing next season like Jason Malumbi has performed this year. I see a lot of the similarities in there, and Billy. He is definitely a midfield player. You can see that that's his position, and I thought he was outstanding last night. And I thought Hayden Muller looked good when he came on. James Brown, I see years ago and thought he had the ability to be a first team player. I think the boy just needs a little bit of luck where injuries are concerned and a run of games. But I tell you what, I wouldn't mind having Grant from Huddersfield. If you want 15 more goals in a season, George, then I think Grant could do it for you. He scored over 15 goals.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Ted. I thought what I saw of him last took his goal. He looks a prospect.
He had when he was playing for Charlton, he showed a bit of quality about him, and Huddersfield paid a few bob for him. I know they did, but that's the type of player that I think that we need. I'm not sure Kiefer Moore is the right type of player that we need, if that makes sense. I want someone with a bit of pace and someone who's clinical in front of goal. And, Colin Grant fits all of that to me. Either that or we find another. Sorry?
They're going to want, if they paid a lot for him, they're going to want to recoup some of that. It's like Woods, isn't it?
I'm not saying that we'd. Yeah, I'm not saying that we'd get Colin Grant, but I'm saying he's the type of player that I think we should be looking for, and he's a different type of player to Kiefer Moore. That's what I'm saying. I think that's the type that we need, more than Kiefer Moore. Keep going on about Moore.
Whoever we have has got. We need a forward with pace, don't we? We got Smith. He can win all the ball all day long. I'm not sure about Bradshaw. I think he don't get the service, but I think we need a young Steve Morrison, if there's one out there, who's got pace, strength, and that's what you're looking for. And that guy, as you say,
it's either that or you get in another loaner. You like Harry Kane when he came in. I know none of us are.
I think it'd be pretty tricky to get him now.
Well, I don't think we get him now. No. I always set my sights high, Miles. I've got, on my list, I've got Harry Kane and Lionel Messi to come in alongside. It probably won't happen, but I mean, we was fortunate enough to have Harry Kane in his early years, and I think we'll all agree he had a good spell with us. If there's a Premier type player like Swansea, have got that Ryan Brewster from Liverpool, haven't they? And he scored a cracking goal, and the kid will score goals. I mean, if we was lucky enough to find someone like that would help.
Someone who, if they did score the goals and you go up, would be open to another loan in the Premier League the next season.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you get yourself in the Premier League, Miles, it's the obvious, isn't it?
But that's what you said. You want the 15 goals. That's going to get you there.
If you loan a forward, though, and he scores you a lot of goals, then you end up a club of our size end up not being able to afford him. That's as simple as that. That's the trouble with having a good goal scorer.
But if you win, you'd be able to afford him.
If that goal scorer gets you into the Premier League, then all of a sudden Millwall becomes a lot more attractive than they are in the Championship.
In terms of the young players we've mentioned who did play, and we've talked about it looking good for next season, do you think it is a good sign for next season, or did you look more back at the QPR game as a worry that when the pressure's on, they're not quite doing it, but because the pressure was off, it doesn't mean as much?
I don't think we played very well since we've come back. I mean, really, we was flying high before the shutdown, and we've come back, and I just don't think we've kept up our fitness. I mean, Jed's not been fully fit, has he? Thompson's not been fully fit, and they've both been playing. I think we just hobbled through these last 9 games, basically, showing touches of what we can do, but strictly speaking, we was never really going to make the playoffs, were we? It's just that everyone else was playing so bad as well that we got the opportunity to nearly get there. But them youngsters look really good on Wednesday. We got that Burley up front as well, haven't we?
He did
He was
well on the
looking
right
okay when
wing,
he come on.
didn't he? Yeah. And he
So,
nearly
yeah.
scored, bless his heart, didn't he? Yeah, he nearly scored. So,
Well, we all know,
I'm
George.
optimistic.
Historically, we tend to be at our best when we have good young players that have come into the side. You know, some of our best teams have been when we've had youngsters come in that, you know, with the experienced people that we always have, the youngsters come in and make it a good squad. You know, and we to me, I think if you still class Ben as a youngster, you know, when you look at some of these other young boys that are coming in, and I know that under 18 side last year in the FA Youth Cup had some talented boys in there, you know, and we haven't seen all of them. So you would hope that one or two of them might impress in the pre-season as well to get themselves involved with the first team. But sorry, Miles. Yeah, I just think that that's normally our best way forward as a club.
Absolutely, and you know, a big win to finish the season when there is only a short turnaround till next season. There's not much time for fitness levels to drop. They'll get a little bit of a rest for the legs, and then when pre-season kicks in, which I don't know when it'll be, but it's surely going to be in the next month or so. Kick on with a 4-1 win under your belt.
Yeah, I think that's right, Miles. I think we should take a great deal of. I mean, where we were this time last year, you know, fourth from bottom, and we end up eighth. It's a great achievement for the football club. We're all happy. Once the season ended, it was like it ended for everybody because we were at a really special moment for us, beating Forest and then moving on, and it didn't happen. And as Pat said, we've come back and not been quite on the money, but still stayed in there. And these youngsters, I think, are going to be a shining light for us. It's just whether Rowett gives them the chance, you know, and that's always Scott Fitzgerald's dream, that the youngsters are given the chance to play in the first team. I thought of him last night, actually, when the youngsters all come on. He must have been grinning away sitting there, actually, that they were all getting a chance, because some managers won't play young players, will they? We know that.
And what we've got to remember as well, Miles, if you look at the record since Rowett's been here, only them games, we would have been in the top six. You know, I mean, Rowett can boast that at this moment in time because that is what his record is as a Millwall manager since October to here with all the games. We would have been in the top six under his management. So, you know, I think there's no doubt in any of our minds that we've got the foundations of a very good Millwall side. It's just the usual thing in pre-season. One or two sort of incomings that turn out to be good buys, if you know what I mean. I think Woods will be excellent. One or two more, especially one that can knock a few goals in. And I don't think we'll be far away from the playoffs at all next year.
I think that's a good exclamation point. Tonight we're welcoming a man that's a pianist, a singer, a songwriter. He's from Ipswich, a former member of the band Rosalita. He's had a solo career as well. He's also very well known for his football-based YouTube vlogging, covering the Championship, as an Ipswich Town podcaster with the Blue Monday podcast, and for making a good number of visits to the Den too. Welcome to the show, Benjamin Bloom. Ben, how you doing?
Did you write my Wikipedia?
I did. I've been stalking you, mate. That's what I do. They say never trust.
Thank you very much for having me.
They say never trust Wikipedia as well, so there might be some embellishment in there. So, Ben, do you remember your first game at the Den? Was it what you expected it to be?
I do very much remember my first game at the Den, and in advance of this question, I have it up in front of me on my screen, and I can tell you it was on the 15th of August 2017, and it did involve Ipswich winning 4-3 in a bit of a thriller down at the Den. But no, I heard the Mill chant for the first time, and my team Ipswich got away with one that night, because I remember it being 3-2 at half-time. It was an incredible game, and Tom Elliott came on, and let's just say Millwall got a little bit direct, but absolutely battered Ipswich for about 35 minutes, then equalised, and then we promptly went up the other end and scored the winner in true Mick McCarthy fashion. But I shall not mention his name again for the remainder of the podcast.
I should imagine you heard a bit more than just Mill down there, Ben.
Oh, well, doing what I do, I'm always sat in the homestand as well. So, and I do have to say, every time I go in there, I try and always get on the Kitchener stand in the third block in the middle there. And I have to say that people, all the reputation's wrong. Anyone who recognises me is always very, very lovely down at Millwall.
Yeah,
They express themselves nicely, don't they?
Yeah, they're not backwards in coming forwards, are they? I remember your goalkeeper, Mr. Archer, that night not having a very good game, and he was told about it. Put it that way.
Hello, Ben. It's George.
Hey, George.
Hello, mate. Having covered the Championship for a good while, what were your expectations for promotion and relegation at the beginning of the season?
Well, again, I am very well prepped for this answer, and I filmed the video on my YouTube channel today reviewing these predictions, and I can be reasonably smug about both ends of the table, but I'm afraid my prediction for what Millwall would do wasn't good. I have to say. So I actually got 5 of the top 6 right. I had Leeds, Fulham, West Brom, Cardiff, Bristol City, and Brentford in the top 6. So just Bristol City wrong, and I did have Leeds as champion. I also had 5 of the bottom 6 right. I had Charlton, Wigan, Luton, Reading, Hull and Barnsley, so Reading got out of it. And the 2 teams that killed me in my predictions this season were, I had Huddersfield 7th, expected them to actually spend their parachute money, and they were obviously 11 places lower than that. And your lovely team, I predicted you'd finish 18th, and I've been very pleasantly surprised that I was 10 places out, and you ended up 8th. I dare say 18th was probably about where you were when Rowett arrived as well. So I'll try and hold on to that. But no, my expectations have been pretty much met, other than the big ones I got wrong were Huddersfield and Millwall.
I'm surprised, Ben, that I haven't heard your predictions that you was even invited on this show, to be quite honest.
Well, it sounds like your higher ups agreed with my predictions at in about October time as well, didn't they? When they did the managerial change. But I was actually at Harris's last game, in fact, at Luton, and it did just seem about the right time, and I think it was done in the right way as well. And come on, you guys must even have been surprised by how well Rowett has done.
Well, I was going to say to you about that, Ben. What did you think when Rowett became our manager? I thought he was a good manager at Birmingham. He was going places, and I think, if I'm right in saying, that Soda took over. But so I thought he was the right sort of choice for us, because it was a bit of a gamble. We can't be in Millwall. We're not going to get established people. We have to take a bit of a gamble. But do you think, has Rowett passed your expectations of what he could do in this division?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, my feeling on Rowett was pretty much the same as you, that he'd kind of peaked at Birmingham, and that he'd got Derby into the playoffs, but they didn't really lay a glove on Fulham, and kind of surrendered in the second leg. I was at that game as well, in fact, and then it frankly failed miserably at Stoke. So there was a bit of a sense that either Millwall were getting a good manager who just had a difficult last job, or they were getting a manager who was on a downward trajectory. And fortunately for you guys, I think they got a good manager who was in a tricky job. I'd always found him fairly sort of pragmatic. If it was if it was 1-1 in a game, I'm not expecting Gary Rowett to bring on a striker. I'm expecting him to bring on a defensive midfielder to shore it up. But it seems to have been a good match, and certainly the work he's done, particularly sort of developing Jed Wallace, has very much impressed me.
Right. Now, going back to the start, really, when Rowett came, was you surprised to see Bart leave Ipswich and come to the Den? Although he was Harris's idea, wasn't he?
No, I wasn't surprised at all, to be honest. Obviously, Ipswich were relegated, and Bart had signed. It's just another example of Ipswich completely fudging their recruitment to even levels that I didn't think even Ipswich could do. So the season before, Bart had signed a bumper contract to become the highest paid player of the club. Then relegation had obviously happened, and there'd been some sales in the summer. Waghorn and Webster had gone from Ipswich, and Bart had been the one that had stayed, but obviously got the new contract. So we knew he was going to be shipped out. His kids are growing up, and we knew he didn't want to move too far away from Ipswich when when sort of Blackburn were linked and things like that. It was if he can get somewhere in London, we thought he would go there. The only surprise really was how Ipswich handled the transfer, which was just hopeless. If you remember, it was done as a loan initially, and then the loan and the obligation to buy ended with 2 weeks of the transfer window left, which put all the power into Millwall's hands, which meant sadly we got our pants pulled down, and you got a good deal with Bart and a good fee. And knowing what I know about knowing what I know about Millwall, the way they pay, probably on less wages than we were paying as well. So no, Bart's a really good guy, and it wasn't good for him in his last season at Ipswich. There are any number of things that weren't right, and it's really nice to see him, found a good home and being loved again.
I mean, all right, we had Archer before, who seemed to go off the boil, seemed to be quite a good goalkeeper. But as far as Bart was concerned, this season has just been outstanding for us. He has saved us on so many occasions. Was you guys at Ipswich, did you all know that he was that quality goalkeeper?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was our player of the year for 3 seasons running. And I mean, obviously that says a lot about our progression as a club. Your goalkeeper should only be player of the year once, because that means that basically you're conceding a lot of chances and none of your attacking players particularly do anything. But 3 years in a row was crazy. And, there was a lot happened. He was... players were sold. A new management team came in that, let's just say, were a little bit abrasive in their approach with a lot of the senior players. Bart was one of them. He was dropped without being told ahead of the local derby against Norwich, which obviously is a very big deal there. And he found out when the team found out, basically, and that didn't go over well. He found his way back into the team, and you wouldn't believe this, and I didn't believe it as well, having been 3 times Player of the Year. He's completely lost his game for probably 6 or 7 months. Had a really poor season last season, and I'm kind of looking at Jack Butland now for Stoke and wondering if the same thing will happen, whether you just get a move. And this is where I always thought Neil Harris, and I guess Gary Rowett by extension, would be a good manager for Bart, in that he would protect him. He's not going to be asking him to ping balls out to the fullbacks or whatever. Last line of defence, you're going to have Cooper and Hutchison in front of you. Save all the shots you can save. That's all you want Bart to do. As soon as he didn't feel in a kind of stable situation and was being asked to, find the centre midfielder and play out from the back, it just didn't work. So I'm really pleased for him, and not surprised that he's just won that Golden Gloves award for the EFL as well. So good for Bart.
Very well, much deserved as well. Anyway, Bevan, you've once again made a selection of the Championship team of the season. It sounds that publishing it presents some interesting challenges. What happens and why does it happen?
Oh God, it's literally the one video where I can rest assured the comments will be just completely idiotic, emotional rubbish from football fans, if you know what I mean. Basically, you pick a team of the season, and what I liken the fans that send these comments to are parents at school going, and it might be that their little Johnny can't sing and shouldn't be in the play anyway, but they still go, oh, what about Johnny? What about Johnny? And I put my team up with reasoning, explanation, and ask repeatedly, don't come at me for my choices. Write your own team, but just without fail, every time, literally minutes in, I know I'm going to get a comment, and it'll always be from a fan of a team, and they'll have the picture of the badge as their Twitter as their Twitter picture, and they will pick a player from the team they support and tell me in very blunt terms that I should have selected them. So I go back and forth with this, thinking, what am I trying to do? Why am I trying trying to tell football fans not to be tribal and over emotional. That's the whole beauty of it. But yes, it does present its challenges, and I try and implement about 500 caveats into the selection process. But people still won't have it. If you don't pick their favourite player from their favourite team, they think that you hate them for some reason. But I tried.
Was that username Charlton Athletic Addicts 325 by any chance?
Yep. Exactly. No, even more digits than that, and they obviously want Dylan Phillips to be the goalkeeper, don't they?
Were there any players that did surprise you that you wouldn't have thought had got in there at the start of the season?
No, I mean there were a lot of sort of big names. There were some that were completely off my radar. People like Pereira for West Brom, who's been fantastic. I'd not even heard of him, but I mean Mitrovic and Ben Rama, you would have expected to been there. You would have been very pleased with my right wing selection as well up the top there. Calvin Phillips didn't surprise me. John Swift a little bit maybe for Reading. I think he stepped up nicely. I had Ben White for Leeds, who's been excellent. Hector for Fulham. I was close with Sean Hutchison, I have to say, but no, not overly. I think having studied this league, I knew who the kind of blue chip players were.
You did shortlist Bar and Hutch, didn't you? And you did pick a Super Jed as your front right selection of your team. Was there any other Millwall players who came close to getting picked?
Well, what I was trying to do was to try and appease all the what about so-and-so comments. I did like a short list of 5 players for each position. So Bart was 100% one of the best 5 keepers in the league. I was trying to be a purist and think about the way my team played. So I went for the Brentford keeper on the basis that my team was going to play like Johan Cruyff's Barcelona or something, play out from the back. To be honest, with the right backs, you might gawk. Marlon Romeo, actually, for the sheer amount of appearances he's made, wasn't far off being in the 5. Sean Hutchison was in there. I suppose Jake Cooper would have been close, but Jake Cooper's kind of a known quantity now. We all know about him from set plays and things of that nature. I suspect maybe if Ryan Woods gets signed full time, he might have a shout next season. But I had to go for Wallace just purely that I had a couple of fancy Dan players as well in Pereira and Ben Rama, and I wanted a nice direct player, get in behind, take some free kicks, So that's plus I have a nice relationship with the Millwall fans, and I wanted to have a Millwall player.
Strategic, that was strategic. Oh, sorry, that was me. Sorry, I'm miles away again. Never
Falling asleep, Ted.
Oh yeah. Sorry, Ben. You're not boring me, honestly. But anyway, what is it that attracts you to covering the Championship? I mean, this question that I'm asking you here, rather than other tiers, I genuinely, and I mean this sincerely, Ben, for Millwall or a club like Millwall, I think this is the best football that we can expect. Even if we go to the Premier League, the difference in the Championship is anyone can beat anyone, and you go there every week believing you can win. Whereas if we got in the Premier League, obviously the likes of Man City away and that, we pretty much know what's going to happen. But this Championship division, as was shown last night with Barnsley beating Brentford, anything can happen.
God, and you ask my Norwich mates at the moment, are they, they've just had a season of VAR and losing every week. Are they looking forward to coming back down and being probably the best team in the Championship again? Yeah, of course they are. But no, I had no grand plan to ever be a YouTuber or anything of that nature. We started the Ipswich podcast, and then it was quite straightforward that we wanted to do a video side of it anyway. I put an advert out. A guy agreed to do it, and then he cancelled at the last minute. So I thought, crikey, we haven't got anyone to do it. I'll do it. And then I just really got into enjoying it. And then, things then branch out, don't they? And I went from just doing Ipswich to doing the Championship. And obviously, Ipswich stitched me up in the best possible way by getting relegated from the league that I was covering. But fortunately, made friends at enough clubs now where I can, pull in an audience talking just about Championship, and especially last night with that just mental end of the season. All across Twitter, everyone's saying best league in the world, most exciting league in the world. And I was just saying the very same thing you just said to the Leeds fans. It's like, readjust your expectations now. You're in the Premier League. There's going to be a period of 6 weeks where you don't win a game. There'll be a period of a month where you probably don't score a goal. And it doesn't mean you're a bad team. But yeah, I take your exact point that, you guys know what you like at Millwall, and you want to see a competitive team. And would it even be that fun? I must admit, I would love Millwall in the Premier League just to see how the how Match of the Day and the authorities and everybody treated. I just find it funny, but
I can tell you how to treat us.
No, but I take your point 100%.
Well, the first thing is I'm surprised, Ben, you got any Norwich mates, but there you go. We'll worry about that. And I'm even frightened to ask this question after your first answer to my first question, where you were so on the ball. Who would you tip for the top 6 places next season, and who would be haunted by relegation? And I'm really worried about this answer now.
Crikey! Look,
we won't ask him back.
Obviously, with the very big caveat that we don't actually know who 2 of the teams are going to be. It's 2 from Bournemouth, Watford, and Aston Villa. And from a views point of view from my channel, Aston Villa, please. No, may the worst team go down, obviously, and not from a purely selfish point of view. But you would expect Norwich to be up there if they can replicate the pattern of play they had 2 years ago. They were an excellent team. Teams I would expect.
Going to say relegated, then.
Oh, no. Teams, I'd expect Derby to improve. I think they've got a lot of good young players there. Surely Stoke can't do 3 seasons with parachute money of such abject nature. So I'd expect Derby and Stoke to improve. And then you're looking at the playoff teams and who doesn't get up. So we've got Brentford, Fulham, Cardiff, Swansea. Obviously, 3 of those are not going to go up, and they're all up there. But you guys would know as much as Ipswich fans. Millwall is a smaller club in Championship terms, and those horrible parachute payments really distort the league, and it's very hard to look past. Norwich and the other 2 coming down with that big financial advantage. It's going to be tough for Wickham, isn't it? Rotherham, maybe they've got experience. And I have to say, I'm a bit worried about Huddersfield from what I've heard financially about them down the bottom. I think Barnsley will improve, given what's happened this season. Reading always seem to get out of it, don't they? But I suppose what you really asked me is how will Millwall do? I think Millwall will continue to exceed expectations. They just need to get that recruitment right, and maybe Millwall need to not be scared now of cashing in their chips and trying to start up in the ante with their recruitments, and that it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if one of the big saleable assets went, and that could retool the rest of the squad.
Yeah, I noticed you left Millwall right to the end and you didn't put him in the promotion teams you got there. Going back to the Rowett thing and his CV, he's got into the playoffs before, we know, with Derby. But other than that, there's not much there. Do you really think he could get Millwall into the playoffs next season?
It's hard, isn't it? Like I say, 3 teams are going to come down, and the Premier League are going to give him 45 million quid. And what's Millwall's transfer record? Couple of million. That's what Millwall are up against. And whilst the chips are stacked so against teams like Millwall that don't have a parachute payment or a giant fan base like a Sheffield Wednesday or a Forest, then frankly Millwall finishing 8th is hugely impressive already. I think where they can push the envelope a little bit more, like I said, is if you look at the teams who actually managed to challenge without parachute payments, managed to challenge these rich teams, it's people like Bristol City and Brentford and Preston who are not scared to say sell a Jed Wallace for a lot of money and then really back their manager and say, right, we've got 15 million for Jed Wallace. I'm going to give you 10 million to spend, but you've got to buy 2 players and they've got to be worth more than 15 million by the end of next season, and away you go. Otherwise, it's just so hard unless you get a miraculous Huddersfield type season or something like that, it's very, very hard for teams of the size of Millwall or my team Ipswich, I'd put in the same bracket, to really be challenging. So I would think less about it being an issue with, say, Rowett, and more an issue with just the way the championship is structured, and hopefully it will change one day. And teams like Millwall, who run the club well, who don't throw loads of money away, who don't even publicise their contract lengths, and generally run a tight ship, that they get some reward for that, rather than a team that's been one of the worst ever in the Premier League getting given 45 million quid advantage. But as you can see, I get quite vexed by these things, and I'm in full admiration of someone like Millwall finishing 8th. And I say, quote, someone like Millwall in the most respectful way possible.
Now, Ben, can't you get Ipswich up? Sorry. I love Ipswich. I love going down to Ipswich. It's great. I really do.
Yeah, it's a shame where the club is at the moment, but hey ho. Hopefully,
I miss them tractors. I really do.
Oh, I do too. Hey, I do too. But it's been a bad time under the current ownership. Let's just say.
What's their chances next year, Ben? Sorry, Miles, I'm coming in again there, but I'm interested about it. What's their chances next year? Because they was going quite well this year, and then all of a sudden it just fell apart.
Got any more decent players we can nick?
That's what I was coming to, Beck. Give us a chance.
No, Flynn Downs is terrible, and so is Luke Wolfen, and you don't want either of them for sure. But no, I hate to say it, but I think it might be a bit of a freak show in League One this season. If COVID is still having an effect, I think there might be a few teams that have to basically raise the white flag in that division, and cut money to the point where they're not competitive. So from a very selfish point of view, and I don't want to be saying this, I think Ipswich might be one of the favourites on default, just because they've got a rich owner and they're a much bigger club than a lot of League One clubs. But I'm yet to be convinced by Paul Lambert. I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong more than anything. I want him to be fantastic and for him to get us back. But you can hear I'm a logical guy. I need to see evidence before I make a judgment on something. And I'm afraid I'm not seeing it just yet.
And now, Ben, it's been really interesting to hear the thoughts of such a famous YouTube vlogger. Over 10,000 subscribers to your channel. I think I need some tips, to be completely honest. What I have noticed, and we do want to talk to you about quickly, is the news surrounding Wigan and Sheffield Wednesday. So this has put the final table in the Championship completely into doubt. We don't know. We don't necessarily know where Wigan will end up, where Sheffield Wednesday will end up, where Barnsley will end up, where even Charlton will end up, with the potential points deductions or the points deductions Wigan have been given. What are your thoughts on the situation?
My thoughts are that if we take emotion out of the Wigan situation, because we all agree that Wigan have been completely shafted by their owners, and emotion says that we should have sympathy for the Wigan fans, the Wigan players, and the Wigan management. Of course we should, but what are they going to appeal against? It's black and white. If you go into administration, you get 12 points deducted. It's not fair. It's not fair, and I have sympathy, but sadly sympathy doesn't solve many complex problems, and I don't think Wigan's appeal will be successful. What I've heard about Sheffield Wednesday is that their infractions apparently are worse than that of Birmingham, who were deducted 9 points last season. Now, whether the EFL will be consistent in their meting out of punishments is a completely different matter. But what I would say is, if Sheffield Wednesday are found guilty and it only needs to be more than 9 points, I think if it's 10 points, they're down, and your friends Charlton are safe, aren't they? I think if they're found guilty, they're down. But I don't know whether the EFL are going to find them guilty. Whether the Independent Disciplinary Commission are going to find them guilty. And from the last statement I read from the EFL, it was very much, we don't decide. The disciplinary committee will do it. Whatever they decide, we go with, and they'll take as long as they like, which sounded like the biggest amount of passing the buck I've ever heard from the EFL. So I think there is potential that Charlton could be saved if Sheffield Wednesday are found guilty. They may or may not.
Do you think it's a case of, as the season's actually finished, the games have finished now, that maybe it should have to be put onto next season for Sheffield Wednesday because the ruling's taken too long, whereas Wigan knew what was happening, so they had a chance to up their form? I know it shouldn't be the reason you up your form, but it's a difficult, to now put them with the points deduction after games have finished. Is that too harsh, or because it's happened this season, is that the problem?
I can see that argument, but the response would be then you'd effectively be saying Sheffield Wednesday, if they were guilty, are guilty, but we're going to save them because the EFL took too long. And morally, that doesn't sound right to me. If they're guilty, they're guilty. And remember, we're talking finances here, so everything's a year behind in the financial. These are not infractions that have been caused by COVID or anything of that nature. It's long-standing stuff, particularly with Mr. Chansiri at Sheffield Wednesday and Mr. Morris at Derby, trying their hardest to push the limits of FFP and, trying every little loophole. But personally, I don't want to sound like a horrible curmudgeon, but I think it should be meted out this season. And yes, it would be unfair because now you've got a situation as well. Sheffield Wednesday lost to a 93rd minute goal last night where potentially, like you just said, if they'd have known, they could have been attacking at that point. And yes, you're right also to say, well, you shouldn't just score a goal when the threat of your club is on the line, but it would be nice to know, wouldn't it? So I take your point wholeheartedly, but I just think if FFP is going to work, teams need to be scared of it, and then they'll obey the rules. Whereas if we get a situation, it took too long, do it next season, and we've seen the EFL seemingly with Macclesfield. Right, how many points for them not to be relegated? Okay, we'll deduct that. I think it needs to be a little bit more kind of fiercely meted out for it to even be serious, would be my view. But I totally understand if you're a Sheffield Wednesday fan and the point you made, why you would say, hang on a minute, you charged us 6 months ago. Why are you telling us now? So I get it, and it's a complete mess.
Well, on that, thanks, Ben, for joining us and using the word curmudgeon, which is a great word. Hopefully, we can have you back next season to discuss the Championship and your thoughts on the Lions. Thanks, Ben.
Absolutely. Let me just give you a mill. There we go.
Need to work on that a bit, Ben.
At least he tried. We'll take a break there. We'll try our best to avoid listening to the lovely voice of Ted Robinson, who's in the past mistook a guest expression of quality being aimed at him, but it was for the person we'll listen to now.
Bethany Warren here again. Thanks for listening to our show. Don't forget, Love Sport Radio is now mothballed pending change in current conditions. You can still listen, though, to music both online and on DAB. Podcasts are available on demand. Hopefully, we'll be back on the air with them when normality returns to the marketplace.
I'm Miles Blumsom here with the No One Likes Us talking team of Patricia, George and Ted. We're turning our attention to our fan in the dugout section for the last time this season. So before we bring you our fan in the backroom staff, our fan with the backroom staff on the next show, in the dugout tonight, we welcome a man from Lewisham who's currently exiled in Ealing, but not for much longer, so he says anyway. He's an incumbent of Block 42 in the Dockers lower stand and is famed for being Banana Man at Wembley and holding the anti-compulsory purchase order flag with Nick Hart at the time when the Den faced extinction under the reign of the previous Lewisham Council Cabinet members. Tonight, we welcome the one and only, it's Henry Morgan.
Evening all, thank you very much for having me on the show.
Now Henry, you're going to have to start by explaining, especially to me, how did you come to be the Banana Man at Wembley?
Well, I'm going to blame Mickey Simpson for this, fan on the board. I messaged him originally about a no to CPO banner that I had made before the Bournemouth FA Cup game, which I guess must be, 2016 or something like that? And so just because I thought it's probably likely to be on TV, so if we can try and get some publicity around the issue, it might get into some of the national papers. So anyway, so I managed to make this banner. Took it along to the game, nabbed some German kid to grab the other end of the banner, held it up, and lo and behold, I think the next day it got into quite a few papers, actually. The Guardian, obviously, Barney Ronay, who led the campaign, was one of them, but it was also in the Mail and a few others. And so Mickey said, at the end of that season, when we made it to Wembley in 2017, he was like, well, I've got, we're going to try and get Barney Ronay, we're going to try and get Sky TV there, so try and get there early, maybe you can bring the banner. And what I was thinking, H, is maybe you could dress up as Banana Man. And so obviously, so the link there is that the Surrey Canal, I think it's called like the Surrey Canal Sports Federation, or whatever renewal we're using supposedly as the cover for the funding they got from Sport England. They wrote Banana Man as the address of that company. So this whole idea about, I think Steve Bullock being Banana Man, mayor and that kind of stuff came from out of that sort of rhetoric from Nick Hart and Mickey Simpson. So lo and behold, I'm on the tube heading to Wembley in a Banana Man outfit with an old Lewisham 88 shirt on, with just about every Millwall fan I bump into going, mate, we don't dress up at Wembley, fella, do we? I'll have a picture anyway. So that's the long and short of it, really. That's how I ended up dressed up as Banana Man at Wembley. I think also I got onto 5 Live, I think, very briefly, just to kind of outline what our cause was at the time. But yeah, big banner. My poor dad, unfortunately, had to walk around with me all day as well with the banner. We walked up Wembley Way with it. So, never lived that one down, really.
Yeah, he's not mine.
I was just say, he didn't have a T-shirt on, "This is my son," pointing.
No, he only came for the Real Ale, to be honest. And then
no better reason.
And then was in tears at the final whistle after the Morrow goal. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Emery, what have your thoughts been about our performances post-lockdown? I mean, I think it's proved to us how much the fans mean to our football team, if I'm honest. I'm pretty sure one or two of our performances would have been a bit better, if not a lot better, if we'd have been in there. But what do you reckon of it since lockdown?
It's a good question. I think that I always look at us as a team of momentum, and I think that after that Forest game, I was like, yeah, Derby next week, we have got a real chance now for making a run on the playoffs. As soon as COVID came along and, the season was suspended, I've got to be honest, I feared the worst. I thought we'd probably just fall away, get a couple of draws maybe. We might win a couple of games, but generally fall out of contention quite quickly. Derby game came along and obviously, a home match, you're thinking, ordinarily we'd have the crowd behind us and it could be a real opportunity for us to kind of tune Derby up, do the double over them and kick on for the playoffs. But we lose that game and we start to fade away slightly, a few more draws at home. I saw a few things on Facebook, we haven't won at home now for sort of 7 or 8 games before that Blackburn match. And to be honest with you, I thought that we would melt more than we did, to be honest. And to go into that last game of the season with an outside possibility of making the playoffs, I thought really was not a bad position to be in, especially given the size of our squad and especially given how many games we had to play in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I think that Derby game as well was a sellout, as I understand it. And
yes,
I think you're right with I think you're right with the momentum thing. I think we could have gone on a run there. We were so impressive at Forest that I could only see us going in one direction. It was a shame in the finish that the lockdown came and it did.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on our midfield, Henry? Do you think we need Woods and Malumbi next season?
Pat, I think that they're two quite similar players, if I'm being honest. And I think we've seen today, I don't know if the rumours are true, but apparently we've got Woods back for a year. Is that right, on a loan or something?
Someone's talking 4 million. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, that's got to be ridiculous. Yeah, I can't. Not unless I'm.
We haven't got 4 million.
Wallace has gone.
I think they're talking about a loan, aren't they?
Yeah,
that's right. That's what I'd heard as well. I mean, that's what I'd heard.
You'd agree with that, would you?
I think I'd take Woods. Just because I think Malumbi's signed up to a longer contract at Brighton. I think that I mean, will he be in their plans for next season? Who knows? But I just think I really like the way that Woods, especially in sort of like the whole game, he got a bit more, confidence, and then he looked even better in that sort of, in the Blackburn game as well. I think I would go with Woods. Ryan Leonard, I guess, is the big anomaly in there. I've, to be honest with you, not been a big fan of him, but in a more attacking position, taking those sorts of shots like, the goal he scored up at Hull, if you look at his highlight reel for when he was at Southend, those are the types of goals he was scoring there. That's the type of player that Neil Harris wanted to sign. And then obviously he went off to Sheffield United and things didn't work out there for him. But, I don't know. I think that obviously we need to kind of plug that gap. My feeling, actually, I was going to talk a bit about Conor Mahoney a bit later, but I think there's real potential there for him to maybe step up as well next season. I really hope. But this might sound ridiculous, but I'd love to see another sort of George Saville type player. If not, George Saville come back to us, just because he gave us a few more goals, but also was just such a sort of, creative midfielder, created space for other players. I haven't even mentioned Jed Wallace, but obviously, he's vital. Trying to keep him, I think, in this off-season might be a massive ask. But if we can keep him, get Woods back, Mahoney playing a bit better, Ryan Leonard maybe, playing a bit more forward with Woods sitting behind him. I think that's kind of trying to shore up the midfield in that sense.
Henry, Rowett has said that he indicated that we need about 15 more goals than we had this season. Where do you see that we make that happen from?
Well, I'm not going to answer Ryan Leonard. Maybe Mason Bennett. He's a massive risk, obviously, but I thought he was obviously unfit in that Forest game, but he made things happen. I think two of the first two goals were him making runs down that left-hand side. I know that obviously Murray Wallace was the one that crossed it, I think, for the first goal, but he certainly almost, set up that second one by being persistent and a bit of a pest down that side. He had a poacher's goal against Blackburn. I think,
that's right.
But he obviously comes with a lot of baggage. Is he someone who obviously we're going to get 15 goals from? I'm not sure if he's fit and if he can stay fit. I think there are question marks around that as well. We've obviously seen the rumours about Kiefer Moore.
Yeah, Kiefer Moore.
I don't know if you've looked at his stats, but he seems to be in a similar vein to. He's got more substantial, maybe international experience than either Gregory or Bradshaw, but I wouldn't say he was prolific. I think he's got 10 or 11 goals this season. Tom Bradshaw, lots of things are being said about him online. I still don't think he's probably had the service that he needs in terms of those balls round the back for him to run onto to really see, if we go back to that Derby away game when he scores that, that well-taken goal there, I think that's probably more of a chance than just trying to, lump the ball up to Matt Smith and maybe get him to knock it down so that he can run onto it a bit like we used to do with Morrison and Gregory. But, I don't know, 15 more goals. Conor Mahoney maybe. I thought his finish last night against Huddersfield was exceptional, actually. He had a lot of work to do there.
Yeah.
So who did you vote Player of the Year? Who stood out for you this season?
I think I said to Eamon before, it's very difficult, isn't it, to step away from Bart or Jed, I think. But actually, just to be a bit different, I would go with Marlon Romeo. 24 years old. I think his defending's improved no end this season, especially in the Championship. He's got a bit bigger. I think if you look at his stats online, he's put something like 30, 31, 32 crosses into the box this season. Played 41 games. Maybe more than that, a couple in the Cup as well. He's a proper Millwall type player as well, isn't he? He's battler. He runs all day long. When he makes a mistake, he tries to cover it up. But he also, and I think this is the most important point that maybe sometimes people don't pick up on, he creates space for Jed Wallace to be able to go and do some of the things that Jed Wallace goes and does. He has a wonderful overlap. And so for me, if I was going to be slightly alternative, I think that he is the person that I would identify as my player of the season.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't disagree.
Emery, assuming we don't get back to playing in front of fans until sometime in October, and then we've reduced attendances as what they're talking about, what would you like to see being offered to fans in terms of accessing games live and via a streamed or televised service? Do you think that they should carry on with the iFollow?
Yes, I do. I think that there are potentially some amendments that need to be made to the iFollow app, or the way in which it's done. I mean, I've certainly struggled to get a code from the club because they've got an old email address. I know several other people that have had a similar issue and then have had difficulty contacting the club. So I think that there's definitely an issue round there with potentially, updating details or something. It's not the same, is it? I think that which goal did we miss? It was Miss Bennett's goal against Blackburn, because the replays were going on for Jake Cooper header that wasn't going anywhere. It would be, I don't know whether, if they were going to start bringing that back, that you would rotate season ticket holders, maybe do something on the point system for those individuals. I know several people who hadn't missed a game for a long, long time, 10, 15, 20 years and such. And now, obviously, they're missing week after week. So whether you could maybe do a socially distanced, even if this might sound ridiculous, but you just put one person in each block and rotated that for the people that have the top number of loyalty points or something like that. But I think that, it's difficult, isn't it? Because I think there's been a lot of contradictory advice about, from certain quarters. I'm not going to obviously criticise the government on here, but I think there's been a lot of confused thinking around some of the what is safe, what isn't safe, and I've heard some ridiculous rumours about having to turn up 3 hours before kick-off and no queuing, and having a time. But I mean, we are a team that need a home fan base in order for us to probably push on and make any kind of improvement on what we've done this season. And I think that, quite rightly, we've already made the point this evening that actually, when the crowd aren't there, we don't perform as well.
Do you believe, Henry, that Gary Rowett's team will be more successful next season? And that's a tall order, I would imagine.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, well, I mean, an improvement on this season is either finishing 7th or in the playoffs. And I think the point I would make here is, if you look at, and I've made this point online a number of times actually, but which is about our wage bill. The fact, if you look at a team like Reading, I think they're averaging players, are getting 16, 17 grand a week as an average. And they're sort of spending almost 2.25 or 2.5 times what their revenue is. I think our revenue in 2019 was around £18 million. You compare that to the other teams that are around us, it's a different, we've got that financial issue, first of all, to sort out. Our average wage, I think, is about 7.5, maybe 8 grand a week this season. Most of the teams around us are averaging double that. So, we always have to take risks on players if we want them to improve, or they have to buy into the team ethos, or like we said with Mason Bennett, we maybe have to take a bit of a punt on people. So I don't know. I mean, the other point as well that I think was quite amusing, obviously we're starting on -6 points next season, because Charlton have gone down.
You had us all going there. Yeah.
I thought the EFL would come out with something else then for a minute.
It would be just like them. But no, I don't know. I think, but it comes back to the point. If we've got fans back in the stadium, we've got to look. We can't have 8 home games where we're not winning if we want to make the playoffs, and that's been made clear this season. So we'd have to have a slightly stronger home form. You'd have to think. the size of the squad always worries me. We've got lots of good young players coming through. Last night I think showed that. I think almost I thought Billy Mitchell when he came on was phenomenal. Actually, I thought he looked. You think comparing to Wigan last year at the same time in the season, he looked much more mature. We would need players like Ryan Leonard to step up and be the player that we think he can be. We would need players like Conor Mahoney to step up and be the type of player we think he could be. We'd need Tom Bradshaw to get the kind of service he needs to make those kinds of, runs in behind the back and score the goals that we think he might be capable of. Matt Smith, I think he's had a phenomenal season. He's, bless him, he's not getting any younger. And I say that as a 38-year-old man myself. So he's 2 years younger than me. But you just sort of get my point from a professional football point of view. If we could get someone like Keith O'Moore, maybe he's the new target man that we're looking for in the middle. I think he scored last night, didn't he? But I think it's a big ask, to be honest. And I think Gary Rowett's done a very good job since he's come in. The Rowett revolution, if you like. But I think we're really up against it, and we always are. If the fans aren't there, the financial backing, John Berylson's done a phenomenal job of keeping us very even. The financial fair play stuff seems to be a complete and utter joke for these other teams like Reading, who have a similar income to us but spend 2.25 times their budget over what they can. So something like 226% or something in 2009 in terms of outgoings, and they never seem to have any kind of penalty for that really has an impact. So. I don't know. I would love to see us make the playoffs next year, but I think it's a big ask.
It's going to be tough. Hopefully fans could be in the stadium as soon as possible. Just before you go, Henry, the CPO failed thanks to the actions of many fans, the club, politicians, the press as well. John Berylson wants to get going with the regeneration. What do you think of increasing capacity to 34,000 and the introduction of another railway station at the rear of the Cold Blow Lane stand?
I think another railway station would be absolutely brilliant, because however you try to get to the ground, whether you walk down from South Bermondsey Tube, if you go to South Bermondsey train station, it's very congested. After the game, if you've got anything more than about 10,000 people there, you wait around for quite a long time. I mean, I tend to spend that time in the pub, to be honest.
Oh, man.
I think there are obviously infrastructure projects around the stadium that could also take place. I mean, the plans that I've seen, it depends who's going into that housing. And I think Lewisham Council's track record on this isn't great. If you look at Lewisham Centre and what they've done with the housing there, that housing hasn't gone to local people. It's gone to people that have a lot of money elsewhere in the world. That's fine. It's a free market economy. But if you were to do the same thing around the Den with that lack of social housing, that's a massive issue for local people around the football club. And do we need 34,000 seats when we're playing Wigan at home on a Tuesday night and there are about 7,000 or 8,000 people in the ground? And I guess obviously the idea is to kick on for the Premier League, but then I'll take you back to my other point previously about you're going to need to find more money for wages if I think you really want to mount a serious campaign for that. So, the stadium is in need of a bit of modernisation here and there, but I just think you're going to have large areas of the ground potentially on some match days where you've got to pay for more police and stewards. Is it going to be counterproductive until we maybe made ourselves into a side that can challenge for the Premier League consistently? And then, if we got into the Premier League, I'm sure we would sell it out every week. Like we said, we sold out for the Derby game. I think our attendances were as high a couple of seasons ago or last season than they were when we made it into league, into the old First Division. So I don't know. Something needs to be really done about that lower tier and the away fans. I think, there's a lot of loss of revenue there, I think. But 34,000, Wigan at home on a Tuesday, I'm still slightly unconvinced, to be honest. We're a fickle bunch down at the Den.
It is a good point. If you're going to increase, you have to sell it out every week for it to be worth it.
Yeah, and I think there are definitely times. I go back to that point about us momentum. When we've got the momentum behind us, and I'm never going to be able to let go of that Forest away game on that Friday night, because we went up there and we just, first half we smashed them off the park. Second half we defended like we looked like, a solid playoff side. Sell out against Derby next week and you get that momentum. There's no way that Derby are coming in and winning that game 3-2 if you've got a Den rocking like we know it can. I'm sorry, I just don't believe, and we kick on from there, and then maybe we're in the playoffs. Maybe we're, I'm not going to say maybe we get automatic, but, maybe we're looking at the Premier League.
You never know.
And it's worth that impression. It's worth that investment.
The only point in having a 30,000 stadium, Miles, and everything is if we're in the Premier League, because that's where we will fill it. A bit like Charlton filled their stadium when they was in the Premier League. Yeah. If you're not in there, you won't get the crowds in. So, it's a bit of a chicken and egg, really. You've got to get there first before you're going to get the people coming through the gate.
And then do the job. Yeah, Henry, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. Hopefully, and I'm sure we'll catch up with you next season. Yeah,
wonderful. No, yeah, love to. Thank you very much for the opportunity, guys. Appreciate it.
And I should dig you out in block 42, Henry.
Yeah, you start stalking now. Do you go right or left when you go on? Like, that's the thing, isn't it? Come up the stairs. Do you go right or left?
When I come up, I always come up through the first stairway and do a right.
And go right.
I'm actually sit right on the very edge of the block 43, if you know what I mean, the line down the middle. Yeah. So, but I am in 42.
Well, there we go. Now everyone can get your autographs, can't they, when they head down to the
10? You'll know me, Henry. I'm the one that keeps standing up when we miss a chance, getting everybody's way.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers, Henry.
Cheers, Henry.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much. Take care.
To take a break on. We'll be back soon with the departing Lion joining us in the virtual studio.
Hi, Patricia Maslin here. The Millwall Community Trust needs volunteer help. Whether you're an organisation with bodies able to assist or an individual, the Trust needs you during the current conditions to support the vulnerable and needy. Current projects include providing 200 children each day with a hot and healthy meal as part of free sports and education camps over the summer, and providing assistance to those that need continuing support at this time. If you can help make a difference or need help, please contact Sean Daly, the Trust's Chief Executive Officer, by phone on 07 958 02 7060. Once again, that's 07 958 02 7060, or contact by email sdaly, I'll spell that, SDALY, at millwallcommunity, all one word, .org.uk. I'll repeat that, sdaly, SDALY, at millwallcommunity, all one word, .org.uk. If you can, or you know someone or any organisation who might be able to help, please let the Community Trust know. Thank you.
I'm Miles Blumson, back with the No One Likes Us talking team of Patricia, George and Ted. Now, this is exciting because we welcome a man. He joined Millwall at the age of 15. In 2014, he made his first league debut for the Lions against Birmingham City. Despite losing, he spoke of his delight of fulfilling a lifelong ambition of making his league debut for Millwall, and he dedicated the achievement to his father. Although he's English-born, he's also been capped as an Irish international, under 17s, under 19s, under 21s. He made it to the full international squad in 2017 for the World Cup qualifiers, and in September 2018 scored his first senior international goal for Ireland on his debut in a friendly against Poland. It did finish 1-1. All in all, he's made 226 appearances for the Lions, scored 44 goals, and although he signed an extension to his contract to cover the post-lockdown games, his time with Millwall has come to an end after the final game of the season, and he's been released as a free agent, one of the top free agents. We welcome to the show, it's Aidan O'Brien.
Hello.
Now, Aidan, you've expressed some wonderful words about your time with Millwall. Were the two Wembley playoff finals of 2016 and 2017 the highlights of your career with Millwall?
Maybe not the two, maybe one of them, yeah. The other one was seriously hard to take, but I think it was the next year we went on to win it, didn't we?
We did.
That's right.
Yeah.
We bounced back really well and we made it happen the second year round. So maybe it was a lesson to us the first year. We didn't want to get to that position again, and we know how it felt to lose, so we knew we weren't going to lose that second one.
Hi, Aidan. First up, how did you come to join the Lions?
I was playing for my dad's midweek Sunday league team that he created in North London called Isleton Wolves. And been playing there for a few years. And I was playing at a place called Market Road in North London. And it was actually a match, 7:45 after school. And there was a scout called Gary Northover who came to watch the game. Obviously, I didn't know. My dad set it up. I didn't know at the time, and I scored a few goals. And then after the game, he come up to me and went, "How do you feel coming down from Millwall?" And I was like, "Sorry, like, what?" And then he just basically set it up. He went, "Look, I'm a scout from Millwall. I know Millwall, blah blah blah." And then went down straight to a game against Watford at their ground, straight to the game, not even trained. And then I scored 2 on my debut for the under-15s, and then that was it. The ball was rolling.
It's a story, isn't it? He was obviously a good scout, wasn't he? Aidan, can I just start off by saying that, and this is George, by the way, I think you've been a great servant to our football club, and I think it's a pretty sad day that we're going to be losing you, mate. So I just want to get that in while I can.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. I've had a lot of kind messages from, honestly, thousands and thousands of messages.
That's great.
I feel overwhelmed, sitting here and reading them just on my own with a cup of tea in a dark room. Proper sad reading them, but at the same time, joy, because I know what I've done for this club. I know what I'm worth at that club. I've given my all every game, and I've actually had a good career there, scoring a lot of goals. And I would say playing out of position most of the time as well. So I've actually enjoyed every minute of it, and I appreciate them kind words. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's going to bring me to my question, really, because I was going to say you've played in a number of positions for us over time. But what is your yeah, I mean, there is one that I would never have played you in, but you seem to have got lumbered with that one. But what was your favourite playing position?
Well, I love playing up top. I'm a striker. It's like anything. You train in something for so long, and then you get to the big stage, and then someone actually changes what you've been doing and what you've been training to do. So it's like it throws you out of your comfort zone. Do you know what I mean? It's like I've been a striker since the age of 8 years old. I've not been anything else. And then obviously coming into the Mill first team, my main thing was to be a striker. But at the time there was a deadly duo in Morrison and Gregory, which I understand. They're great together. And it was hard for Neil Harris to fit me in. So because Neil Harris and me got along so well, he trusted me. He wanted to somehow get me in the team, and the only place he could really see that is left midfield. So I just kind of took to it. I learned. I tried to listen. I tried to learn the role. I tried to do what I can every game to kind of fill that role. And I kind of hit the ground running, scoring every week, and then it kind of made that my position. But I definitely want to be up top.
Yeah, you've been with us so long there, Aidan. You must have built some strong bonds with the players, past and present. Who would you say within the club has been the greatest influence on your career?
Greatest influence would definitely be the likes of Neil Harris, Scott Fitzgerald, Larry McAvoy, Anthony Gale, like the coaches, them type of coaches, the old school coaches that kind of gave me that kind of confidence and trusted in my ability, even when I was probably a little rat growing up. No good. They'll probably turn a blind eye to it and try and keep you on the straight and narrow. And I appreciate like people that because I needed this chance, I needed this opportunity, and they gave me it, and they stood by me. And I like to say I've repaid the football club and repaid them. So yeah, it'll probably be them sort of coaches that I've just named that I would say helped me the most in my career.
R. Raymond caught up with two people who wanted to express their thoughts about you. First off, we'll hear from the Chief Executive of the Millwall Community Trust, Sean Daly.
Yeah, Sean, lovely to speak to you again. Going to talk about Aidan O'Brien. I know you spoke about him in the past, and I know he's been a good friend to the Millwall Community Trust. He's leaving us, obviously. How do you remember him?
So with the players, I've got them down as ambassadors for the trust. I'm in a very good way with the club and the players and the management, etc., where they offer their services to the community to endorse some of our programmes. Aidan, straight away, when I went over to see him, said, look, I'd like to help out on the community trust, anything I can do. And I try and give them a project that they can engage with, but something that's close to their heart or something they can attach to.
Yeah.
Because I think it's very difficult for players to go to something that they don't believe in. So I sat down with Aidan and some of the other players and showed them what programmes we do. And Aidan's feedback was, I want to work with young people that have lost their way a little bit. I want to give them sort of a bit about my experiences, but someone I can guide them and help them. So Aidan sort of like attached himself to our alternative provision. Right. Alternative provision is young children that don't go to school anymore, being excluded for all different reasons. It might be that school's not for them, something that's going out in their social life, gang affiliation, could be anything like that. And they just need a bit of steering to get back into that classroom. And Aidan comes down, twice a month down to see us, sit with the young people, talk to them, because that's all he does. He sits and talks with them, gives them a little bit of guidance, talks about his own experiences. And, I turn up some days and he'll be wandering around the Lions Centre and I'll say to one of the staff, what's he doing down here? And he'll go, oh, he's just come down to see the kids and have a chat. He's that sort of unapproachable person that just wants to help people.
Yeah. So that will be a bit of a miss for you now with his departure. Or do you think he'll still have contact with Aidan?
Well, I'm hoping so. I texted him last night to say, sorry to hear about the news and thank him for all the stuff that he's done with the trust. He's built up some great relationships with some of these young people here. You'd walk in and see him playing FIFA with somebody or in the gym with one of the lads and that, talking about getting them into college or, how's your life outside school. I'm going to miss him a lot, same as I'd miss every player, but Aidan's very special, We gave him our PFA Community Player of the Year award this year for the work he's done. I nominated him for a national award as well, which he got to the last two in. So I can only thank him what he's done, the profile that he's given to that programme and the impact he's had on those young people is just excellent.
Well, that's fantastic. And thanks again for giving us a bit of background about what you do, what the players do. It's really good to hear about it. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks very much.
Aidan, it's clear that Sean, his team and those that work there are very thankful for what you have done. You also got the club. You also got the club's PFA award this year for your work in the area and just pipped to the post for the overall PFA award. What is it that appeals to you in working with the young people that the trust supports?
Just life experience, really. That was once upon a time me. And when you can put your, as he said, I just listened to that. He kind of hit the nail on the head, saying you can't really fully and commit to something that you don't actually really understand. And the program that he set up, I'm fully understandable of what they wanted and how them people will feel in them situations. So I obviously knew how to approach it, and knowing that they knew what I was going through showed that they weren't alone, and what they're going through, others have gone through and got out of it. So I kind of explained to them every day that you're not stuck. There's ways of getting out. You just got to believe in yourself, and so. Yeah, so basically I just want to help the youngsters get back on track in their life.
Well, it certainly sounds like you picked the hard choice there, Eamon, but that's not my question for you. You have said in your message, once a line, always a line in your passing message. Yeah. It sounds like the club has a special place in your heart. What is special about Millwall for you, mate?
Well, first and foremost, they gave me the opportunity to change my life, change my family's life. So I thank Millwall fondly, and I'll never ever. They'll always have a place in my heart for that, for changing my life and my family's life and giving me the opportunity. Secondly, from the day I stepped foot in the first team, playing my first game, the fans have been nothing but a joy for me. Obviously, you get the odd one, but that is just normal. But the fans, honestly, on the whole, have been an absolute joy to play with. Walking out in the Den every Saturday, Tuesday is just one of the best feelings in the world because of them, and they just make you feel so at home straight away. And it's just one of the best feelings in the world, and I'm gonna miss that feeling walking out on a Saturday hearing the Lions chanting. But other than that, my family loves Millwall now because of how long I've been there. People in my family ain't even been to a Millwall game, and they love Millwall. You know what I mean? I've just created something in my family that is just Millwall now. It's just from a kid that's come from nothing, Millwall gave me the chance, and now my whole family supports Millwall because of how long I've been there and what they've given. So I thank Millwall for that, the fans, the staff, the players, and I will be returning. Don't worry about that.
That's lovely. Yeah.
Right, here's the second message Eamon received from a fan who wanted to say how much you've meant to him and his family. Dean Brown, father of that most famous of Millwall mascots and Southwark's last citizen of the year, Harvey Brown.
Hello, this is Harvey Brown's dad. Just want to say how gutted we are, especially Harvey, after finding out that Aidan O'Brien is leaving Millwall. We'd really like to thank Aidan for everything he has done for Harvey. Like the time when he came to our home and surprised Harvey on his birthday with presents. And when Harvey was in hospital after he had an operation on both knees. I messaged Aidan and told him Harvey was having a real bad time. He didn't even hesitate. He drove straight from Bromley to Great Ormond Street and really cheered Harvey up. He's become such a good friend, really. He's just such a genuinely nice lad. And we really can't thank him enough. He signed a shirt for Harvey on his birthday, just gone, after a friend of ours, Chris, was at the Millwall Christmas party and asked Aidan if he would sign a shirt for Harvey. And true to his word, on Harvey's birthday, just gone, he gave me a signed shirt for him. And he just goes beyond, he's just a really nice bloke, and he's just genuine. Hopefully he'll keep in touch with us. We really wish him all the best in the future because he deserves it. Aidan, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for everything you've done for our son. Good luck, mate.
My word, what an accolade that is, Aidan.
You lot are going to have to give me a minute here. I've got to go get some tissues.
Yeah, get me one.
Wow, I was welling up there, man.
Well, I know Dean and I know the Brown family, and my word, I've never known him like that. To be honest, no.
Yeah, I was welling up there. Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing though what you can do with just, not just in football, but in life. If you can just, just be kind and giving and helpful in life. It's amazing how much you can change someone's, you can do so much in just being kind and genuine in life. And that's what obviously me and my family are all about. And it looks like the Dean family have appreciated the Harveys and stuff like that, appreciated it. And them words there have absolutely blown me away. So I love them to bits, and hopefully, obviously Harvey, he's a warrior. He'll be all right. Don't worry about him. He's a warrior. But yeah, I will talk to them again, and that was emotional. I appreciate listening to that. Thank you for that.
How did your relationship with the Harvey and Brown and the family, particularly begin then?
It was just through seeing them at the stadium. They used to be around the stadium every day. I used to see the little man. Just used to just have jokes with the little boy and Harvey, that is, and just kind of grew to him. He used to be in and around the changing room sometimes. And then, he was just I don't know if you've met him, but he's just such a sweet little kid. And all the stuff that he's been through at such a young age, and he still manages to come to the stadium with a smile on his face and sing the Millwall songs and enjoy the game. It's incredible. It's actually incredible. And then, it just goes to show you, we've got nothing to moan about in life, and that little kid is that's why I kind of took a liking to him, because he is the most strongest kid I've ever met. And his family is the most nicest I've ever met as well. And that's how I kind of come around it. So anything they needed, I was just there in a flash. I didn't care. I dropped my plans and I made sure that little kid got everything he needed, because he deserves everything in this world.
Absolutely.
They obviously think the same about you, mate, don't they? That's for sure.
Yeah, they do. I appreciate that.
All right. After that, back to the football. You played for Ireland since you were 17, but that goal you scored in Poland that's pinned to the top of your Twitter page, it also got the FIA Goal of the Year award.
Yeah.
How do you remember it, and how did it feel?
That was up there, obviously, with the Wembley moment with Millwall. That is touching, because when you score a goal for your country, it's just even just saying that I've scored for my country is just a massive statement. Do you know what I mean? Not a lot of people can say that, and for me to actually score on my debut for my country was just a dream. Even to this day, I sit down sometimes and I just put on the highlights of that game and I watch it and I just think, wow, I actually done that. So it was incredible. It's an incredible experience and something that I'll take to a grave.
At 26, people are saying that you're entering into your prime of your football career. Go on, mate. Sorry. What are your hopes and ambitions at both club and international level for the future?
Well, I need to get back playing in my position up top and scoring goals like I try to do every game. I want to get back to doing that and enjoying my football, scoring goals. And if I do that at the right club, right footballing club, I'm pretty sure, no doubt, I'll be back in that island setup and back to basically what I want to be doing is scoring goals for my country as long as I'm playing. So I need to be getting back into a team that I'm playing, especially, and then that will let me go and flourish and hopefully get picked up by Ireland again and give me that another chance to show what I can do on the big stage.
Well, Aidan, there were many fans that wanted to personally express their best wishes to you in your future career in football. You've obviously touched the hearts and minds of the Millwall faithful, the community that Millwall supports through its work, with the trust and reading messages on social media and in the press, your teammates and the Millwall management. Gary Rowett said on having released you, I have to say, Aidan's attitude has been brilliant this season, and it was brilliant after I told him. He has to be massively commended for his professionalism. You yourself posted, as some of you may be aware, it's now my time to leave Millwall. This brings great sadness, and it's hard for me to take in, especially since I started here at 15. Be assured that the team here, and so many that have contacted us, will always look out for the man that said, once a lion, always a lion. Thanks for coming on the show tonight. All the best for your future career. Please come back and talk to us in the not too distant future.
Good luck, Aidan.
Thanks, Aidan.
Thank you very much.
People continue to lose their lives to this dreadful virus, and many remain hospitalised too. Our thoughts go out to their families, friends, and of course those that care of them.
It will be Stan, Bethany and James who will be with you next Friday when Gary Staff makes his debut as host. I am assured they will behave impeccably for you, Gary. And what many of you who bought Crowdies have been waiting for, all the Crowdies have been now photographed and in their groups, and you can copy any you want for prosperity from the club website. Enjoy your Crowdies and good night.
The last part of the interview special with the Lions legend Les Briley was released on Tuesday and is available on our Millwall No One Likes Us Talking site on Spreaker.com. Great stories from a great period of Millwall's rich history, and it's the third part, so if you've missed anything, get onto Spreaker. Good night from me, everybody. Stay safe.
I'm not going to ask to tune in to Cole Bates on Millwall I Follow until next season, but don't miss him on next week's show, reviewing the season and discussing his thoughts with the No One Likes Us team. But for now, that's good night from me.
And just to finish, let's not forget, let's keep it safe on the streets out there, which means social distancing and a face mask where necessary. The rules have changed today. That's it from me, Miles Blumsom. Thanks, Patricia, George and Ted. Until next time, if they'll have me back, good night.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.